Good to see you again, my friend, for joining.
You as well. Good morning.
So we had some great recordings with our segments that were talking about championship mindset and performing under pressure, and we went through a lot of the different things with mindset, with what we discussed, and we had several topics that we've gotten some good feedback on already. So we're going to be starting off now with our second segment with multiple subtopics, tying into confidence, right, Pat? So, and I think for this, there's things that a lot of folks will refer to as, hey, there's specific memories, specific self-talk, preparation. Are these, things that could be replicable, not just inspirational? I think they are. And I think for you, with what we want to talk about today, is we want to talk about just what confidence ties into. And again, this is something that our audience and everyone loves to hear, and it's feeding in, and we've got a lot of good feedback. So from a standpoint of just jumping right into, under confidence, first one we'll talk about this topic is embracing failure, right? So one of the things, Pat, that you touched on before was, failing forward in mindset, right? And here, there's a confidence angle. What's a specific failure that you could refer to that, afterward you were actually more confident, not less confident, that you could kind of share with everybody?
Well, I think that confidence, a lot of people talk about how do I build my confidence or how do I grow confidence? And I actually subscribe to the idea that actually we are all confident people. If you rewind back to your 4-year-old self, like you were fearless, like you would take on the world, you would try whatever. And the excitement of just trying something, you were confident. And then over time, we build up these walls that are like fear of judgment or fear of failure, right? And so I think really confidence is about just reminding yourself that like you got this, and being that 4-year-old that is not afraid of anything and will try everything because you're just excited to experience the world. So when you talk about embracing failure or moments that happen that make you more confident afterwards, I think these things happen every day, all of the time. So you could think about like, oh, I burnt my toast. Okay. Am I more confident that I can make that toast better afterwards or less better? Like I learned something, right? Like I failed at the toast, but I've now learned how to better do this process. And you can look at every piece of life. One thing that I think about is I rely on my cabinet experience where I was getting into how do I install and flush out a full kitchen and put all this decorative molding on and make sure all the pieces fit together. And I made a ton of mistakes, but over time, like I learned little intricacies of how to do the jobs better. And every time I ran into that same problem down the line, I knew how to do it. So the confidence came from all of these little micro failures. And it really was rooted in just belief in self. So, I see this in the athletic world. I see it, like in my construction world. I imagine it pops up in business world all the time as well.
Yeah, no, 100%. I I feel like, a lot of folks don't understand, what embracing failure is. A lot of people get scared about it. I was one of those people, Pat, that, hey, when I was, earlier in my days, I was like failing, and failure could be defined on multiple levels, but, there would be things where I didn't communicate well enough. I wasn't documenting things, or even, or I wasn't just stating all the facts, right? And then I'd go back and think like, oh, what do I got to learn here? And there were times where I was like, oh, I'm just not confident. I'm so nervous, right? And like you said about, with what you were talking about with you just, hey, you got to learn from mistakes, right? Be able to reflect back, right? And I think for me, once I was able to reflect back on, for example, I was going into a meeting, and this was a second, third meeting I've had with a different, different company, different set of people, different mindset, different culture. I'm like, I'm going to do a little more research. I'm going to do a lot more. I learned my lesson before from there, right? But then also embrace what I didn't do well, what I failed with, so it was good. And I would say I learned a lot, and I continued to grow. And growth, I think, is, what we need to embrace, and what a lot of folks, need to understand, right? You fail forward, as you said before, but also being able to embrace it, right? And to grow from it, and then coming back and learning, from those lessons, so. But yeah, that's great, Pat. What would be something you would tell folks here, if they're embracing failure, right? What's one takeaway you want to give them as they're looking and listening right now?
Well, I think that failure is a part of the process of learning. right? We grow from all the mistakes we make. You don't grow so much from your successes. Those are just confirmation that you were able to accomplish something that you'd practice at, that you had many failures at before. So embracing failure is the path to growth. It's the path to knowledge. I think about when I was in the cabinet industry and the first time I walked into this huge job is an empty room, which is a stack of cabinets and a blueprint. And I'd never done that before. Right. But I was excited about it. I was nervous too. I was worried I was going to mess something up, but I had all the tools. I was able to get the experiences by failing and all these little moments where I learned from it. I had the resources. I knew who to call when I needed help. And then at the same time, I was excited for the opportunity to take this project on. And when I was done, man, I looked at that thing with a lot of pride that I had problems that I overcame. And when you finish the task, I think that you can have a lot of self pride and that helps you feel really good about your accomplishments. And then all those failures aren't failures. They were just success stories waiting to be told in your final product.
Well said, Pat. Well said. Well, guys, this is we touched today on this subtopic of embracing failure, and again, from Pat and I, we want to continue to encourage you guys to follow us, to subscribe, direct message us, if there's any questions, comments you want to give, and also, Pat is available for one-on-one, so we do want to encourage you guys to reach back out and get a chance to ask directly. So Pat, thank you for joining. Next topic of we'll be covering on our next episode will be belief in self. And other than that, thanks, Pat. Appreciate it, my man.
Thanks, guys.